Welcome to the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast. We're happy you're here. On the podcast, we're certain that you'll relate to the caregiver stories and find comfort with your honorary sisters. Now, before we start, I want to remind you to go to our website, confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com, and sign up for our newsletter. It's full of useful information that you can immediately use. Now, let's learn more about today's guest. Hey, Jay.
What's up, Nat?
Oh, guess who we have today?
I don't know. It's always like a surprise.
We say this every time. It's hilarious.
That's true.
We're
like, let's see who pops up on the screen today.
I wonder who came today to talk to us. Oh my God. Okay, so we have a fellow sister who is also a ginger.
It's true. She is a redhead.
And she is a beautiful redhead and 5 generations of gingers in her family. Family is important. You know? Family is important. And I think we're going to hit on that today because we have Michele Houck with us and she is flipping awesome. And so for our listeners, we've been just chatting for like 20 minutes before we even got on here. And we're like, dang, we should have recorded that.
We should probably start, Michele, before, all right, day.
So, guys, here is JJ. Why don't you tell us about Michele, who is a flippin' rock star?
She is. And I want to say that if you're in your car or if you're at your desk or on your sofa, all of our podcasts have really a special meaning. But if there's one podcast that you're going to listen to and then you don't want to listen to the sisters anymore, this is the one. And because Michele has this amazing story and it covers the gamut of sister care, of siblings, of parents. She's adopted a niece. I don't want to give it all away.
Don't give it away, Jay.
She adopted a dog. I mean, that's one of my favorite parts.
I'm pretty sure she takes in everybody.
I know. So
like she's like, you need a caregiver. That's me.
I'm the person.
People off the road like, oh, you look good. Come on in.
So here's Michele. There's so much more to her bio, but I want to say that 2 things can exist, Michele. And this is what's so interesting for me. She is self-described as this curious-minded goofball, totally the truth, who is a military brat, a band geek, a barrel racer, a beauty queen, a bartender, a bouncer, a floral arranger, and a mountain climber, and is a very proud aunt. At the same time, she started her career as a caregiver at 16 with her mother's first breast cancer diagnosis in 84. Over the last 5 years, she's been a primary caregiver for her mother, her sister, her special needs sister, and her father, all who passed away due to different cancers.
Dude, you're totally giving away all the background.
I know, but I think that's important, Natalie, because everybody...
we're going to keep this to one episode.
I know. So that's why I'm like, everybody listen, do not go away. Listen, because Michelle's got it for everybody. So Michele, it's your turn. I do need everybody to know that Michele inspired us. We have on sequins today.
I don't have on sequins.
Well, Michele and I do. And it's because Michele inspires us to greatness because she has a joy and a light in her that I can't explain. So I have on my sequins. Michele has on her green sequins. Welcome, Michele.
Woo, woo, woo.
Oh my God, I'm so nervous now. I'm so nervous.
Don't be nervous. The pressure.
I'm going to have performance anxiety. I can feel it.
Nobody knows you. It's the best part. They could.
Yeah.
Is it a red solo cup that you have there?
No, it's hot pink.
Okay.
It's hot pink. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's 10 a.m. We are not drinking. No, like JJ.
It's a plant-based protein shake that Natalie has got me on. And no, it's not. I try to make it through the day, Michele. Trying to be healthy.
So we'll put that clearly in the show notes for you if you want to know how to have that little hot mess. Michele, you know what? There's so much to unpack. And I think it all started, and I think you said this, it starts with a love affair.
It's a story.
And I think that your journey to caregiving and who you are today starts with a love affair. So we wouldn't normally go this far into it, but I think it's important because you have to understand the foundation that Michele is built on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the nest of caring, like when, and I did that in air quotes because y'all can't see it, but it's relationships. It's all about relationships. And my mom and dad were like that. And I was telling the sisters earlier, they were like that love story that you read about. They were the Harlequin windswept romance. My dad was a fighter pilot living in Japan. He's a 6'2" ginger, and he flies in on leave because some of his friends have invited him up to a wedding. Some of his fly buddies have a wedding in Texas. So my mom's from Texas, daddy's from Tucson, and daddy was military, obviously. And he was driving a very hot Jaguar XKE, and it was convertible, and he was driving to get to this wedding, and he saw this beautiful blonde woman. This is 1964 or 65. I think it's 65. And so it's the Vietnam War. And he's like, and she's got her hair pulled up in a perfect Texas bouffant, and she's driving with her little sister to go to this wedding at Bob and Buy's. And they get there, and well, okay, I got to go back for a second. My dad drives my mom off the road because he sees this beautiful blonde woman driving in like a white Ford Triumph or whatever that is, like a little regular car, right? Little hat on wheels.
Not
right?
a Jag.
Not a Jaguar. Not a flyboy car, right? So there's this beautiful woman driving, and he kind of pulls over and is like, "Hey," and my mom's like, "Get out of here. Just get out of here."
Yeah.
No.
Today we would call 911.
Exactly.
For that. He totally, you said he ran her off the road.
He ran her off the road. He eased her off the road. Maybe that's a better way.
Ease. Okay. Ease, because ran seems like a stalker.
Yeah. So my mom's like, "Get out of here. You know, I'm here with my little sister. Doodle pip, get out." Anyway, so they drive on up to this wedding, and it's at the Lake Country in Texas. And they pull in, and my aunt, my mom's little sister, looks at her and she's like, "Isn't that hot car with that weird guy that ran us off the road? That's his car. That hot car is here." My mom's like, "Simmer down." Anyway, so and here's my mom's quote, running to the end right here. Like, the first night my parents meet, not only is it this like windswept, like instant, like visceral attraction, like this spiritual connection, right? The night my mom's like, "Well, the rest of the night, your father proceeded to impress me by drinking a case of beer and not peeing." And then they danced on broken glass. Like the kids today think they got it going on. Mama and daddy. Mama and daddy.
It was love. So
wow. And so wait, and then they got married.
Yeah, 6 weeks later, my dad, after he drove up to the World's Fair to see Johnny Carson, because this was like back then in the day, and he drove up and he went to the World's Fair. He flew back to Japan, and he sent my mom like 7 love letters. This is the other part, y'all. I still have boxes of all of these love letters that I have not opened up.
Gosh.
Anyway, we could have a love letter episode.
This is like the Notebook.
Yeah, it is. That's why I said it is like the Notebook. It's bizarre. And to be born into that, I mean, like you said, it's
a lot of pressure.
Well, and it's infusing. Yeah, my desire for romance and windswept Harlequin novel romance, rip off your bodice and be happy romance, that's where it comes from.
Wow. I could see that, because that's a really high set. Like even Hallmark can't keep up with that level of romance.
Hallmark Christmas got nothing on Mama and Daddy.
No. Okay. So he comes back and sending love letters, and then 6 weeks later, he proposes, right?
Yeah. He writes her a letter, says, "I'm in love with you. I hope that this is okay." And he sent her a strand of Mikimoto pearls. And he said, "This is my betrothal to you. I would love," and okay, here's the dirty little secret that I didn't tell you guys up front.
Ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So my mom had originally gotten married at 16 in high school, because she's Texas proper.
Well, I mean, 60s back then, I mean, it's honestly.
Yeah.
So she got married, and by the time she was 18, she had my eldest sister, Cindy, who comes into the picture later. She's my half sister.
Okay.
And she got divorced like 2 years later, because, you know, he was a kind of guy that would marry a girl who was 16.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
That.
You know what's going on.
Let's just keep going.
Got it.
Yeah,
I know.
Got it.
Roll on. And so my dad proposing to this divorced Texas woman with a child.
Wow. That's character.
Yeah. I mean, that's how intense it was. Wow. That's how fabric oriented. I'm sorry. How tight they were. I mean, sometimes there's destiny, right? I have to believe that there's destiny. And maybe that's the caregiver lens, right? Like, I have to believe that there was a destiny for me to be born into these people and to care for these people as they needed to be cared for, that honored their lives, that honored them bringing me in, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, like we were talking, like this is the fabric of care.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And my fabric sometimes does have sequins, and other times it's flannel, cozy pajamas. And sometimes it's like just tatters. Right.
Yeah.
But it's important. And we are all born into families somehow or another, good families, bad families, spotted families, stripy families, whatever families, families that we make sometimes later on. But I think it does. Like when you start caregiving as a caregiver, there's things that you have to summon up deep in the deepest wells of your heart and your stamina. And it comes from that.
Mm.
So you had not planned to be a caregiver.
You didn't think, you didn't grow up thinking.
Yeah. Because I saw like beauty queen bar, all this stuff in your background, but it was not caregiving. Like in high school, that was not like what the
most likely to caregive was one of the pictures.
Yeah. I know. Right. They're like, this girl's not going anywhere and she's going to stay home and take care of everybody. Yeah. No, they were like, this one's like, what are those things like when you blow the dandelions and the seeds go into the wind? That was me. They're like,
you were the girl that said squirrel.
Most likely to squirrel.
I am Doug.
Oh.
So fast forward, your parents have been, you have your older sister.
My half sister Cindy.
And then there's more people to come.
Yeah, then Karen was born in 1966, their first ginger love child after they were married.
Aww.
I know. And so on my dad's side, like you said, 5 generations of redheads. When you come to one of our family reunions, it's like a great gathering of the recessives.
Oh,
you think you're in Ireland.
Everybody is like, where's your accent? So
right? They're like, what are you ginger freaks doing here? Anyway, that's our welcome that we get.
Leave us alone.
So I have to ask, are you the baby?
I am the baby of the family.
I can feel it. You know what? If Emily were here, she would be like, there you go, bees, another baby being another the caregiver, baby. Which is true that we've had so many people on the podcast who are the baby of the family. And Chris McClellan, when we do his episode, he's the baby. 4 older sisters. He is, there's some others, but he's like the 4 sisters are his people. So you guys are born. Okay. So fast forward, you're living your best life, barrel racing and beauty pageanting.
And Land O'Lakes, where we got gators in your backyard.
Oh, I'm telling you, that's fantastic. So
you've moved around. You've been like military, so you're all over the place. You're doing all kinds of stuff.
And again, like when we talk about being a caregiver, I think military families are kind of interesting in many ways. Yeah. In that you form a really cohesive, tiny tribe because you pick up your family and move every 18 months, whether you need to or not.
Right.
Like you are moving. And so it was Tucson, Belton, Texas. It was Fort Walton Beach, Florida. It was Palmville, Louisiana. It was Land O'Lakes, Florida. Like, whether you need to or not, you move.
Wow.
But there's something that happens there. There's a there, just so I want to make sure everybody knows, is because you are moved so much, you have 2 directions you can go. You can go tighter in, you can lean in tighter, or I think people like go away. But there's it's like a tensile strength. Like, when you talk about tensile strength that like really binds you to one another and knits you into each other, in that, that's your tribe. And it's different than just family because they have seen you probably reinvent yourself like 5 or 6 times by the time, because you don't live in the same town. You get to, when you're a military brat, you can take all of that good stuff that you like about yourself and you can take it with you to the next town, and you can kind of leave that bad stuff behind.
You can make mistakes and it doesn't follow you if you're
because there was no social media and nobody's following you.
Well, right? That's true. That's the truth. Honestly, it's the only reason, people listen to us. They don't know our social media.
I don't know your dark secret, sister.
That's right. So you guys, I know, let's fast forward to 16.
Yeah. So I'm sweet 16 and my sister Karen was 18 and my eldest sister, my half sister Cindy, was already in nursing school. She stayed back in Louisiana when we moved to Florida. And so that was the last time I ever lived with Cindy Sue. But my mom, the other thing that runs in my family besides gingerness is we're all BRCA positive, all of the girls. So it's about
BRCA
4
positive
generations.
Is, just so our listeners
what's
know,
that?
BRCA positive.
We all have the breast cancer gene. And before there was genetic testing, honest to goodness, and I used to tell people this when I was a kid, I was like, look, I don't have to look beyond my dinner table to know that this is my future.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell everybody kind of like my sick little inside Michele joke. We call them murder boobs, and you shouldn't get too attached to them.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I've heard of murder boobs before.
It makes sense.
I've totally heard people refer to them as murder boobs.
It's a reality, though, that
you.
Yeah, you got to talk about it, Michele, though. You laugh or you cry, but I mean, it's a reality that you have to say, hey, this is what it is.
I know. And so my grandma Bennett, my mom's mom, and so the murder boobs run on the female side and the gingerness runs on the male side. So I'm a double whammy.
Gosh.
But so my grandma Bennett, which was my mom's mom, Katie, she had breast cancer, God, in the 40s and 50s, which is super dangerous, right? But she survived.
Right.
Wow. All kinds of fun things. She survived to like 85, super duper.
Wow.
Mama, we get what's known as perimenopausal breast cancer. And so when I was 16, Mama was like 42. And so she developed her first breast cancer. And it was devastating. She was super terrified because she'd seen what happened to her mother, and both of my grandmother's 2 sisters, both of my great aunts had it too. So it's like 100%. You don't have to look beyond your dinner table in my family. I'm not joking.
Wow.
And so Karen was gone. Karen, my other sister, she was gone vacationing somewhere for the summer, and Mama got diagnosed. And this was in 84. And the technology was very different. They would like burn you with radiation. It's pretty brutal. I don't have any other words when you see it and you actually see what it does.
Yeah.
It's sobering. So mom and I were at home because my dad at the time was traveling a lot on business. So it was like the Michele and Mom show. Yay.
Yeah.
And so I learned about how to take care of the radiation burns and, kind of the emotional stuff at like 16. And I really want to drive this home to your audience because we are seeing more and more young caregivers, and this is super important.
Yeah.
When you are 16 years old and you are the one in the tiny tribe who is still at home, you take care of whoever is there, and you don't call yourself a caregiver. You call yourself a good daughter. You call yourself a good sister. You do the best you can.
Yeah.
And this is when the relationship starts to turn, right? So as a caregiver at 16, as a child, I still want my mom.
That's right.
I still want my mama. And I have to assume a parenting role as the caregiver. I have to be the one who feeds her. I have to be the one who bathes her. I get to be the one who takes care of her. And you see the vulnerability and the relationship starts to shift. And that's one of the situations as caregivers that we go through when you care for a family member, right? Like, is that relationship shift. And so I think my relationship with my parents shifted at a very young age because of this caregiving situation that I didn't identify as a caregiver, because I was still out driving my 73 Firebird, like at 100 miles an hour.
Oh my God. I could see you with a 73 Firebird because your dad had a Jag.
I know.
I mean, seriously.
This is the car he gave me to learn to drive in.
So I just hear, honestly, Jay, I just hear the da na 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 na. All I hear is Maverick theme song. Right?
The Top Gun thing.
Top Gun. I feel like I need sunglasses on right now. Keep going. Okay, Jay, sorry.
But Michele, I can see, because with Mom having an illness like that, like I know when I care for
you guys have a mom.
There's that time though that I look at it and and at 16, my view would have been completely different too, because at that age, that's hard. And there are times when I'm like, I do get to care for Mom, but there are times that I look and go, that's not fair. Where's my mom? So, I mean, that's a different age though. I know we've talked to Nicole Will, a couple other young caregivers who entered in at that age. You're also at that 16 mindset. So where are you there? Like you personally, are you a little scared?
You're scared.
Yeah.
because
I'm going to lose my mom, or
yeah, because I knew, I mean, also I'm looking down the barrel of the boob gun in my family, which is this kills. And also it's strange because when you realize that your grandmother, her mom has survived it, there's this expectation that she's going to overcome it, that she's still bigger than life, right? She's still like parents. When you're 16, you're kind of like, should I hate you or should I love you? Are you a superhero? Are you a person? I don't know. Boo. I can't figure it out. So I'm just going to do what I do.
Yeah.
But in those quiet times, right? Like in the intimate times of caregiving, when you're alone and you're watching TV and you're cuddled up, this was the year that I learned to rub my mother's feet, and that I learned that made my mom happy. And that's what I can say is like, that's the year I learned to rub her feet and to bring her happiness and pleasure, as opposed to expecting her to give me happiness and pleasure. And the other thing that you start to learn is you can give them security and you can give them safety. And it's a big lesson. I mean, again, like I said, like I really sincerely hope that younger people listen to this and understand that you can't see it when you're in it. It's your rear view mirror, right? Like you're looking at it in hindsight. I can see it behind me right now, super clear. I couldn't see it then. I couldn't tell. I mean, I was still like running wild and crazy it was like being bipolar, right? I guess that's the best way to say it.
No, you're exactly right.
But that's an honest answer, because we have younger people, and they feel like they're not doing it well, or they're not getting it down pat. And that's okay to say, I feel like I'm bipolar. I'm a caregiver, not using that word. And then I'm crazy being a teenager. And so,
I would say this too. You're exactly right. And I don't know at what point we realize it shifts our perception of our parents, shift of them being invincible, live forever. Because I was 35 when our dad passed, and our dad was like 6'3", 250, this formidable, just big man. And he would have the best hugs that made you feel safe and secure. And those are the things I think, if JJ and I were honest, that we miss the most of our dad, is being enveloped by these big hugs. And so when our dad died of a massive heart attack and just dropped dead, that's when you're like your whole, even at 35. So I can't imagine. I mean, I would have looked at my dad when I was 16, and he was your mom's age. So their parents are around that same kind of time span. I would have never thought that they're not going to die. They're old, because we all think people are old in the 40s.
They were so old.
We're all like, whatever, we're 16, we're forever. But I would think that would be hard. You had to grow up. Let me ask you this, though. I want to divert over for a sec to your sisters. Your relationship with your sisters during this time, because you said your oldest sister is out going to nursing school. You have your other sister who's 18 at the time. What was that like, and your conversations like with them and their engagement too? Because I know it's speaking for them.
No conversations with them.
Was it like planned ignoring?
Yeah, they were doing their own thing. It's the Michele show. And I think Karen was honestly living she was my closest. Karen is she's the peas to my carrots, right? Like she's my succotash. I love that woman. Yeah. But Cindy was already in nursing school, and Cindy was already demonstrating. My sister Cindy started doing drugs when I was probably 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And she was a full-blown drug addict probably by the time I was 16. So Cindy was a no call, no show, right? Gotcha. Like you don't call that. You don't want to get close to that because that will hurt you. You get away from that. You get
burned.
Yeah. So and my mom was very specific. She was like, and even I'm just going to fast forward, even up to my mom's deathbed. One of the most difficult things I think I've ever heard a person say to me is, please don't let her come here. I'm so afraid of her. That is my eldest sister, Cindy. She was terrifying on a good day. That's a good day. So she was not accessible. My other sister, Karen, who is, I think I always tell people this, like, how like you have a soulmate. Karen's my soulmate.
Oh, I love that.
And so like in all of this chaos, right? Like there's family dynamics. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's got their warts.
Oh, everybody's messy. Everybody's messy.
And, but yeah, no. So Karen was, I think, in St. Thomas living her best life in like the Virgin Islands with a girlfriend. Anyway. Yeah. So, but Karen, I mean, We also fought like cats and dogs, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
of course.
That is what sisters do.
Okay. Because we were 18 months apart, and she would school me because I was a dumb band geek and she was a jock. So she had some super terror powers with me and put me in my place a lot. Like, you will do the dishes or I will come after you in the midnights. Like, that was
Fantastic.
you?
JJ was always in charge.
Look at that. Look at his face.
Was in charge.
I simply gave directions. They needed guidance.
Do you notice that they needed guidance? And I'm a total middle child. So go with that. So basically you really are taking this on because your dad's traveling.
Your dad's traveling.
He was at the time he was a pilot for now defunct Eastern Airlines.
Yeah.
So, he was.
Yeah. So he's doing the best that he can. So that's interesting. I will say this, Michele, and I think this is, even though it's you and your mom, you're 16 and your mom's 42. JJ, wouldn't you say that when mom got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and our mom and dad were high school sweethearts, total high school sweethearts, married for 40 years before my dad passed. And, but our dad did not want to really accept our mom's diagnosis. I don't think he was emotionally capable of knowing what that really meant. And JJ took the lean and would go to doctor's appointments with our mom. It's not that our dad was a bad person.
He went, but it was something that it was, I think, looking forward and thinking this is what could happen, or this was long-term. It wasn't something that we wanted to think about or talk about. So it was easier sometimes.
And we don't talk about it.
No. And our mom hid her Parkinson's, did not talk to people about her diagnosis for many, many years. And dad would hold her up and she would hold on to him so that people wouldn't see her tremors. Yeah. And in that way, because she was very proud, not prideful, sometimes but proud.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to, and who she was.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, how we feel and how we present ourselves in the world, even if it's an illusion, is wildly important.
Yeah. It's our identity and who we are.
And it doesn't change as we age, right? Like, this is still some might call it a facade. This facade is necessary. And that's what we call dignity in many ways. Yeah. And so giving people dignity and respecting them is also the caregiver's job, is to find that thing, because you know them probably intimately more than, because you guys are sharing these intimate stories with me, right? And so, and when I say no, again, air quotes, right? Like, you know what they need, because if you pay attention, and you have to zero in on them, right? That's the other thing. Like a caregiver keen sense is you watch, you observe, you pay attention, you respond. And you figure things out because sometimes you sense them being uncomfortable or in pain before you see it.
Right.
And that's again, that's that relationship. Again, maybe that's why they call caregiving invisible labor, invisible work, because there's so much of it that's not outward, right? So it's intuition. It's the secret family, shorthand jokes where you just look at somebody and they know that you're going to get weird and kind of frisky, right?
But I think though too, Michele, is that it's why that people say that the family members are some of the best people to provide caregiving. Not that the home health folks who come in and provide help with bathing and things like that. I think it's all the unspoken things that transpires. I think you're so on point. We've not talked about that. It's the unspoken, the looks, the glances, that caregiver intuition because I know that I did that. There were times with Jason when we were in New York. I just had this feeling, and it's, we'd been together for, 18 years. And so, when it's going to, and you're anticipating it happen. That's interesting. So you are taking care of your mom.
Yeah. And that's 16, and mama does great. She does great. Same thing. Every woman on the Texas side of my family. And she gets stuff taken care of. She didn't have a double mastectomy at that time. Reconstruction wasn't as good, right?
Right.
So this is 1984. Just truth be told, there's a story. It was actually published in the paper here about my grandma. And my grandma, because they had really bad prosthetics. And at that time, like in the 50s, they used to cut out your pectoral muscles. And yeah, like the whole thing. It's just soup to nuts. And so she didn't like the prosthetics. And so she would carry bags of birdseed. And because when you hugged her, she wanted to feel soft, not foamy.
Yeah.
Wow. And again, like, so, prosthetics are kind of a big thing in my family or like double mastectomies and reconstructive surgery. And I remember when fast forwarding to my sister Karen, when she had it, they were hard because she had no extra fat because she was, going through cancer treatment. But it was just interesting, like the feeling of that hug that we were talking about, how in my family, every woman, and it's to have confidence in that hug. It's to have and you accept me in this hug. Is a really big thing when you've had to have augmented surgeries.
Yeah. Wow. So go ahead, Jay.
Your mom. So that first, and that's the way you described it, the first bout with cancer, you guys moved on from that 4 times. Yeah.
Mama had it 4 times.
Yeah. So you moved on from that one.
So you move on, you're 18 and you start your life.
Girls got to go and be a bouncer in a bar. And I was also a lifeguard. So that's the year of being a lifeguard.
I'm telling you, Baywatch, watch out, people. And so I know, right? We're all dancing. Nobody can see us dancing. Yeah. So at what point, because you're married.
This is my second marriage. I'm just going to be honest.
You know what though, Michelle, I'm not going to lie to you. I always believe in a starter marriage. I believe in a first try.
Oh my God.
I can't even control her, Michelle. I just,
I'm so excited about her. No, she's like, and I just kept getting a bigger and bigger diamond. There I go.
That's right.
So you kind of continue with life though. I mean, so you kind of get back in everybody's well.
I think there's a difference, right? When you're a young caregiver, you still don't know that there's any, it just is. This is my family. This is what you do. Right. I mean, and for me, again, I had a multi-generational lens, so maybe it was different for me. But I was like, oh, you just keep on keeping on. But I will say this, at 18, I remember going to, the lady doctor, and I told them to cut everything off of me and out of me.
Really?
And she looked at me and she goes, why on earth would you say that? And I was like, because I can see what's coming. And I don't want it. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to have what happened to my mom have happened to me. So yes, there is a print there. And it's that fear that's now embedded, right? Because now I've seen it super up close and personal. Hugging my grandma with birdseed in her brassiere is one thing. Taking care of your mom who has gone through radiation therapy and been burned by it is a completely different thing. So I know there's a harbinger there. I know what's going to come down the pike. And that knowing changes your behaviors. That knowing is let's go. I don't get married. Don't slow down. Something's going to hit you at 40, Michelle. Go, go, go. Do everything you want to while you're young because you don't know what's coming around the corner. So that sense of, some call it fatalism, that was the legacy of my first caregiving experience, I would say. Wow. I thought that was going to be me in 24 years.
Okay.
When I saw her, I was like, that will be me. And so what am I going to do with my life right now? Wow. And that's what I did. I went and traveled the world. I went to school in Germany. I went and I told my mama when I was 4 years old and we lived in Belton, Texas, I walked in the room and I was like, Mama, I am going to live in New York City. And my mom, when I was that young, she was like, no daughter of mine is going to live in that city of sin. And I was like, double dog dare you. I am going to live in New York City. So yes, when I was 20, after I lived in Germany, I went and lived in New York City. I got a job in New York City, my first job out of college. and fantastic. And that job transferred me, and I moved to San Francisco, and then reality hit again. And then I was like 26, 27. And my parents, again, there's a lot here. My parents were living abroad. They were living in Saudi Arabia. My dad was training pilots in Jeddah. Yeah, my family's all over the place, right? So if we lived in the same time zone, much less country, it was always like a party.
Right.
Wow.
And so we would try and make parties where we could, right? Like, I think it's important to celebrate. It's really important to celebrate.
Yeah.
And to have these dreams, hope, wishes, desires, and, you know, it's important. But again, that's my rearview mirror telling you this. That is not when you're in the thick of it, when you don't know, you just don't know what you don't know. And I think that that's the mystery of caregiving, is that there's a lot we don't know about the changing of relationships, the roles that we're going to take on, the surprises, as I call them, the whack-a-moles that show up when you're caregiving, right? So just, I mean, that fatalism I think it was my armor.
Yeah. I think it is your armor. Yeah. I don't want to get hurt, so I'm just going to live it all. I'm going to run. It's like running hot. I'm going to run as hot as I can until I get caught.
Exactly.
And so it sounds like you ran hot for 6 or 7 years. And then you're right. Caregiving came knocking at your door again. And so now your mom lives in another many time zones away. And
in a country where they don't talk about breast cancer because it's boobs.
There's boobs, and nobody talks about boobs in Saudi Arabia. And so I think that, so how do you support, like, keep going with this kind of like, where are you at and how are you able, because now you're supporting from a completely different place. You've got more lived experience under your belt. And
this time I was scared. When she came back. And so here's the thing with the breast cancer in my family. It comes every 2 to 2.5 years. And it's either going to let you live or it's going to kill you. And that's my family. And if you live, we haven't figured it out yet. But I mean, it's pretty much killed most of the women in my family. So, not to be a Debbie Downer, but you got to take care once, like there's a thing with knowledge, right? Like once you have it, what do you do? And there used to be this song on Q105 in Tampa, Florida, where I was from. And they'd play this song and it was a game and be like, it's awful options. Hey baby, what do? You got to take one. It's an option for you. It's awful options. Options for you. It's awful options.
Just pick
options. But I mean, that is the caregiver journey, right?
Yeah.
You got to make a decision. You got to do something. There's options in front of you. They all might be crappy options.
Yeah.
But you're still going to pick one.
You got to pick one.
You don't have a choice if you think about it. I think about all the choices I didn't have. I mean, here's a thought, awful option. Reality is there's some people who don't do it. They refuse to caregive because they're like, I can't do it. And that is an awful option.
That's an awful option.
And then there is I'm going to caregive, and then how it impacts your life. Still an awful option, because in caregiving, I don't think there's anything in the sense of there's the beautiful. It's like, I love Heather Zakali, and she has brutally beautiful.
Yeah.
She is like and caregiving, the 2 words she puts together, and she has podcasts too, and check out her website. Brutally beautiful. They're the most accurate description of caregiving.
It is. It really is. When you think of the depths that you have to be challenged, or that you are challenged, the things that you see, the decisions you have to make on behalf of someone you're in love with. And this, I think, is also for like spousal caregivers too. That's the sickness and health, right? Like, but when you're born into a family, you don't make that vow but you implicitly do, I guess, in sickness and health in a family.
I'll say this. I think that some people do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we start at the beginning, where we talked about the foundation that you're built on. Because if you think about it, your sisters were able to give exactly what they could give. And so that's the also brutally beautiful. That's the awful option too. And so and then it's an acceptance. We've talked about it as sisters.
You're right.
I can do this much. I feel awful that I can do this much, but if I do more, actually it's going to create more harm and have a ripple effect. And so we accept each other for what we're able to give.
Right.
And we're not willing to sacrifice our relationship with one another through judgment.
I'm so happy to hear that. What's interesting that, and, not to remove the veil too much, but fast forward to when Karen got breast cancer. She was 42, same age as my mom, and she was pure. Karen was a vegan. She had a baby. She never drank. She didn't smoke. She lived the stress-free life. Karen did everything you're supposed to do to avoid breast cancer, except for being born into my family. And she was so pure. I think it just took her over. I am the opposite. Let's be real. I've taken so many bites out of life. I'm surprised it hasn't bit back. But
I love it. I love that.
Karen and I were very opposite, right? I did all the wrong things. She did all the right things. And that's how we were. Like when I said I was voted least likely to succeed in my family, I am not kidding. I'm the only one in my family that it took 7 years to get a bachelor's degree. I'm surprised I graduated. I only did because my dad double dog dared me. Karen had a master's. Mama had a master's. Daddy had a master's. Mom and dad were both pilots. I'm going to New York City and going to discos. What am I?
Hey ladies, I need to interrupt for just a second to share about the Sisterhood membership. It's basically a sale every day, and the best part, it's free. Here's the details. We're partnering with our friends at Benefit Hub and other care partners to save you money. With over 200,000 participating companies across the U.S. and abroad, you'll find discounts at your favorite local stores, huge savings on vacations, amazing deals on home, auto, and supplemental insurances, and everything in between. Go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up, and then definitely tell your friends about it. They can join too. Trust me, there's a discount for everyone. And don't forget, it's free. Okay, back to confessing.
So your sister and your mom had the second bout, I guess, when you were 26. That's when they had started in Saudi Arabia.
She had to be flown home. So it wasn't super far, but so this is important too for people who are talking about care policy and caregiver support. I was living in California at that point, which is a blessing because they had FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act.
Oh, yeah.
My mom was flown back from Saudi Arabia to Texas, where she found the best surgeon to do what she needed to have done, which was a very complicated 10-hour surgery. Because she was like, we're done. Take it all. Like mama at I don't know how old she was. She was like in her 50s, right? She was like, I'm done tangoing with this devil. Let me take care of everything. So she had everything cut off, taken out. Like it's like, I don't know. I mean, again, the awful options, if you are BRCA positive and you have breast cancer, look at Angelina Jolie, right?
Yes.
What's the option she has is harvesting. Don't even get me started. It's so disgusting. It angers me. There should be a better way. But right now, this is what we have. It's medieval, but it's what we've got.
Right.
And so mama took that choice, which was great. I mean, because it made her live. I mean, she basically lived and survived breast cancer because she took such an extreme attack on it. I had Family Medical Leave Act in California. They guaranteed my job, held my insurance, didn't have to pay me for 30 days. So I could fly in and take care of my mom for 30 days.
Wow.
My other sister, Cindy was, no option because she's first
Cindy
daughter.
was Cindy. It's okay.
Yeah, she was not an option to help with caregiving. And my other sister, Karen, she was in DC at the time because she was getting her master's because she's that girl. She's amazing. And she was at American University. And, I had to talk to her. I was like, I will be there for 30 days. I need you to come in for the 2 weeks after, and you have to be there and you have to take care of mama because daddy's still in Saudi Arabia. It's you and me. sister.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, here's like, I'm
Coordinating.
I'm just going to tell everybody what to do and manage it on an Excel spreadsheet because that's what I do. Anyway.
Yes, is the answer. Everybody's got their job.
Everybody has a job. And
everybody has their job.
And I was like, I'll be there at the first of it when she needs the most help. And then I need you to show up.
Right.
I need you to guarantee me you'll be there for 2 weeks because then daddy can come back. Anyway, she showed up. She was reluctant.
It's okay.
It was very uncomfortable for her. And I think we just had very different mindsets. And I don't know if it was that first handprint of caregiving when I was 16. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we're all born into the same family, but we all have very different responses, right?
That's exactly right. Our past experiences are going to dictate who we are, even in the same family.
Exactly.
Even in.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee.
Right. None.
Absolutely.
And you also learn to manage your expectations of people, but I also learned to become the manager. So at that point, I actually became the primary caregiver. I can tell you at that point, that's crystallizing. I realized that nobody else was going to do it if I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. My dad could not be there or would not be there. We can all make assumptions, but he was a very stoic man. My sister that's closest to me, she could be there, but it really was super upsetting for her. Like on a level like on a cosmic level, like on a level that I don't understand, because it's hard.
Do you think it was too much? It was too much of reality of what was facing her down the road potentially for her that she just it was like planned ignoring. Like if I don't see it, acknowledge it, then it won't potentially happen.
I can't believe you just said that because that is 100%. And that's, I'm sorry. You're really good. I'm kind of stunned to see that so quickly and not know my family, but that is her willful denial that this will not be my path. So you can see we had different ideas. I was like, that will be me. And she was like, that will never be me. Yeah. You can see the two sisters.
It's Sue saying radical acceptance and radical denial.
Yeah.
If you think, and you said, I will go into this, but that seems like that's your role. Like we have our roles as sisters and it's very clear. So other people may not see how clear it is, but with the three of us, we're very clear in what our roles are. There's not even it's unspoken. It naturally evolves.
It's the shorthand.
It is. And you naturally evolve because of, by default, by certain situations. People were in certain places in their lives. And so you were the one. And so you stayed the one and you raised your hand.
I was the Highlander in the family.
I do love that fucking show. That show is awesome. There can be only one. And all I want to know is that I'm taking the power and I'm lifting the sword and whoo, he was hot.
So hot.
Yeah.
Like and then Queen, again. Like the music that was
it was very okay. Anyway, sorry guys. Sorry. We got distracted by that when he was hot. Woo. Okay. I'm just sweating now again. He'll make your teeth sweat.
I knew she was going to say it. Michelle.
Somebody that's so good looking, they make your teeth sweat.
Yeah.
Baby girl, you are naughty.
So you step in and you're it's time to step up. You do that. You do it again.
You do it again. I will say at 26 was the year I would say it was crystallizing. Like I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to be the project manager of my family's care. And this was also the year that my parents, which is kind of interesting. I mean, because my parents were, traveling quite a bit, but this was also the year that they took out their first, what do you call it? Their wishes. So they wrote a will, they had some wishes and their directions. And I was appointed to be the executor.
Of course.
At that point in time.
Well, that's your job.
Yep. And so it all of a sudden, like I was like little miss, I'm going to go to a party every day and work until I drop and do all the fun things. They were like, I was like, do you guys not see me? Wait, really? Wait, why me? Karen's the responsible one. I'm not. I'm the not responsible.
Well, but here's the funny thing, Michelle, is because they see you.
They did. You're right.
They knew
they did. They saw something I didn't see in myself.
And they knew it was there. It was always there.
I guess, I don't know. Like, there's mysticism in every family, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always these, but that denial thing, I just, it's interesting that you could see that so clearly. And I don't mean to, it was just so shocking because you just saw something that I thought only I saw in her. And I still loved her. I still accepted her.
Absolutely.
I just knew I had to manage her in a different way.
Yes. We manage everybody when you're, And you know what? That's manipulation for good. You manage for good.
Exactly.
You're doing
it's
the right
also
thing.
for protection though. And I know Natalie protects me. We protect Emily, but it is protecting one another because we know what our limits are. They secretively set our boundaries for us because they know what boundaries we can't cross and for our own protection. And that's the family thing. That's
you guys are so fortunate. I have to say when I like closed my eyes last night and I was thinking about this podcast, I was like, who are these mythical ladies? And I was like, oh, they are a pack of Rhodesian Ridgebacks of caregiving. Because you know how like Rhodesian Ridgebacks, like they're lion hunters, right? Anyway, you guys are like that. Like you're filling in the gaps with one another and you're operating on like a high performing level. And I think that's really wonderful. I'm really happy for you guys. I mean, I think that is, if people get to have the ability to communicate the way that you guys do, because communication is super vital in caregiving, understanding, like I said, like when it crystallized on me, I was like, okay, so now this is what I have to do. It helps you understand how to behave. It helps you understand how to preserve those relationships if you deem those relationships to be valuable. There's a lot of culling of the friends. There's a lot of culling sometimes of family. Like Cindy was like, I couldn't depend on her, so I'm not even going to talk to her.
Wow. Yeah.
And
that's a realization. Absolutely.
It is. But you know what? You can't sit on that for long. There's no value in it.
Just move on.
And you just move on and you are like, I can't do anything about that. I can't affect that. I can't force someone to be something that they're not.
You can't make someone show up. You cannot make someone show up.
And that's okay. And are you going to pour your energy into being angry, or are you going to channel that into something else?
Yeah. And ours was like, as I call my mom, like we picked the other sisters up in the family, my aunt, like all of the ladies that I could pick up, I would be like, okay, this is how we're going to move forward. And it did cause friction. I'm not going to say this was friction free.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's never friction free.
It's always messy. It's always messy.
I know. That's the other like piece of advice I'd give people is like, don't like the emotional messes, the real physical messes that you have to attend to as a caregiver. They're real and they're awkward. And if you can get a decent joke in there or a little bit of like, because laughter really is a salve. And it's awkward laughter sometimes it's like get out of my face laughter.
I will get out of my face before I cut you laughter. Like if you don't get out of my face, or as I'm crawling under the stall to help my mom and I'm on the floor at the nastiest Walmart in North Carolina. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have this jacket dry cleaned. And I'm thinking, I'm crawling under and I'm thinking, am I too fat to get under this wedge here? And I thought, what if I get stuck and then my face hits the floor? I mean, all the things, but I didn't. And I was
slow motion.
Yeah. And I can just military crawl underneath. And it's the moment of acceptance. You think, oh, damn, I'm going under. Yeah. Here we go. And then you're just all in. You're all in under.
You are all in with caregiving. That's the truth.
That's it. You can't be half butt. You have to be all in. Oh, yeah.
And and that is the push, right? Like, so when people, and I know I've been all over the place, and I mean, just for the listeners, I'll just be like, when I talk about being a caregiver, and you guys are talking about the formation, I was a caregiver for mom, for Karen, for daddy, the dog. I don't want to get into the dog. And then my eldest sister, Cindy, was the special needs one because she did too many drugs, in the 70s and 80s that really fried her brain. So she was the one, been taking care of her. And then my niece, So I think I've been stretched. There's a stretching that happens, but there was a word that somebody said to me at one point in time with my denying sister in hospital, and she was in hospice. And this woman came out and I was screaming. I mean, I am a redhead. Let's be very clear. I'm a very impatient person when people, like when payers, providers, or whatever is not working out, I get fierce.
Yep.
And I was crumpled in this little heap into the hospice hallway. And this woman came out and she's like, honey, I need you to calm down. And I was like, you're going to want to get away from me. Sincerely, you want to get away from me. And she's like, I don't know how I can do this. I don't know what's happening. And she was just like, you have more capacity than you think you have. You are just starting to see it. And I was like, get away from me.
Walk away.
You know, and I know we're gonna stop here in a second because we're gonna bring Michele back. Like, it's so important. There's so much more to unpack, but that's the part that as caregivers, I don't think in the moment. So like when you talk about in the rearview mirror, you don't realize how much is in you until you get through it.
Yeah.
And while it's happening, it's growth. And remember growing pains? Do you remember? And it's growth and change, two things that are super terrifying for most of us.
Yeah.
And it's growth and change in a way that society doesn't really tell us to expect.
No.
It doesn't tell us to prepare for. And I have to say that I don't, and there's a book. Have you read Sheryl Sandberg's book, not Lean In, it's Option B?
No.
Okay. I prayed and prayed and prayed for words when all of this rain started coming down on me in 2016, when my world, I was pressed. I was definitely too little butter over too much toast in that point in time in my life. And you lose your words, you lose your ability. And the thing that I've always counted on is this ability to explain and articulate and direct and produce and like make things happen. I had no words. I had no words for what was happening and what I was being asked to do.
Right.
And so I prayed and prayed and prayed. And Glennon Doyle's book, her first one, came out, and it was, what was it on? Carry On Warrior Princess or Princess Warrior. That's where my name came from. Just so you guys know, my CB handle these days is Ginger Warrior Princess.
Oh, you are a warrior. I can tell you right now.
And then the second one that came out was, I don't know if you guys, and forgive me, I'm going to just cliff notes on this one. Sheryl Sandberg, her husband dropped dead on their vacation.
Sure did.
And
I think he was on an exercise bike or on a treadmill. Yeah. He was working out.
He was, and they were in Mexico, and she had a plane flight to get home and tell her children. That's all she had. And she was like, I've lost my first option on life. I've lost my option A. And then, so she worked with us and forgive me for not remembering. I hope people read this book because it gave me the language to say, there can be a tomorrow. There's an option B. There can be a Christmas again, somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will say the language of resilience is not something, and she poses that question in the book where she's like, do you think we can teach people this before they're put in the situation so that growth and that change is not so painful and so mercurial, right? Like, is there a way we can train people in advance? When we think about the aging society, right? When we think about where things are going, how do I prepare some of these other 16-year-olds out there that are going to be walking in the same path as me? This is why I work in care tech. This is why I work in age tech, because I never want another sister or brother to have to make the awful options, And if they are, they're more prepared. So it doesn't have this lingering effect with me. And we can talk about that some other time, but there's a lingering that happens after you grow and change and learn so much. There's something that happens.
Yes, there is. Yeah. Yes, there is. And it changes you. And I think I'll say this. It's a good question to pose because it's about society and you think about what our society accepts and absorbs and what do we have this. We don't revere the aging population like we used to. 250,000 years ago, we lived in tribes. Bruce Perry talks about this. We lived in tribes and we learned from one another, and we learned what was expected at every age by our tribes, and we lived in groups,
right?
and exactly, and in interacting, and it's an interaction between young people and middle-aged people and older people, and so I think we've gotten away from that through technology. And I agree with him in this. We've gotten more disconnected and more relationally. He talks about relational deserts. We've gotten more disconnected, and it's that moment that you wish for simpler times.
Yeah.
And the times that we grew up, and every Sunday we'd have 20 people at our grandmother's house, and we played in the backyard with our cousins. And we all know, I still know my cousin Rod and Richie and all the grandkids and everybody. And there's a yearning for connection that I think we experience now. And I do think you can teach it, but unless we're intentional, I don't think we'll get there. I think the more that we advance technologically, and the more that we're pulled from one another, I think that how do you use technology to build connection as opposed to fragment it?
Well, and how do we allow people, like what you're talking about is witnessing, right? Like I want to witness age instead of denying age.
Yeah. I want to embrace I'm 47. I embrace every flipping ounce of it. I am so happy to be 47 and not 27, because my 27-year-old didn't know crap self.
She was a hot mess.
Oh my gosh, yes. And made some fantastically awful choices. And yet
she was a dumpster fire 24/7, even in her 30s.
I mean, I was a CEO, and the funny part is, Michelle, I was a CEO at 30.
Yeah.
I know,
and
right?
So you're like, can't do too bad. But the reality is how do we embrace the aging process and love ourselves at every age?
Yeah.
And welcome that. Oh, that's so much. Oh,
I know. No, and it's big. Okay. So
Michelle,
I want you guys to do this. I want you guys to walk into the Forever 21 store.
No.
And I want you to say Forever 47. I walk in there and I go, Forever 55, kittens. Here we are, kittens. Look hard.
You guys need to get some more clothes.
I don't understand why you only have like size 7, 9, 11, and 13s. I'm sorry. As adults, we're in the even numbers. As teenagers, you're in the odd numbers. When did that happen? Anyway,
I don't know. I'm with you.
We digress, but you know what?
I know.
I want to spend the last couple of seconds doing sister questions, because we're going to have Michelle come back, because there's so much more. And you are such a sister to us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your tribe.
I love it. You are always a part of our tribe. So JJ, what is your sister question?
I need to know about barrel racing. That was one of your passions. Just tell me just a little bit about it.
Mama was a horseback rider, and she insisted that all of her daughters learn how to horseback ride, because she believed that there were lessons that large animals will teach you that humans can't.
That's right.
And
so therapy.
Exactly. So large animals, they will hurt you. Anyway, so I mean, I like going fast. Obviously, I had a 73 Firebird. I like the sounds. Like, there's a lot of sounds to barrel racing.
Yeah.
And it's visceral, right? Like, so you're attached to another critter, and you're one. You become one critter, and it's amazing. Oh. And it's dangerous. And so my horse Phoenix actually did run me into a barrel one time, which is super painful. And that was my first knee injury. But I mean, because they cut you tight, like you have to lean in, and then you have to lean that way. And then you have to, the coolest thing is they call it opening up, right? Do you guys ride horses?
No.
No, ponies. We had ponies when we were little. That was it.
That was a big dog. It's a big dog.
Sorry.
Gator was a big dog. He was a lab. He was big. He's like a pony.
I love you. We had Great Danes, so I get you. Preach.
There you go.
Anyway, but you open them up. There's this thing, like when you go through this gauntlet, right? So it's like 1, 2, and then you go around the last barrel and you lean forward, and what your whole posture changes. So you lean forward and you embrace basically the neck of the horse and the front end of the horse, and you hear them, and they're like, and their throat opens, and there's this, and they go forward, and you open up, you run as hard as you can. And it doesn't matter hard. You just run and you're alive. Anyway, that's what I like about barrel racing.
Got it. It's not just straight riding. It's, insanity riding. So, I
wish Michelle lived near me so that we could probably get arrested. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I just love you so much. I'm like, you are like a spirit sister to me. Okay. So I always have the best question, and I am shameless about it. What is your favorite guilty pleasure? Favorite. And that you're not sharing with anybody, in the sense of like, I don't care if it's food or whatever. What is your guilty pleasure? You're like, I will do this.
It's so interesting that you asked that. And I feel totally unprepared for that, because I'm trying to discover that again. I don't know anymore.
You're on a mission.
No, but why? Why do you feel like you don't know?
Oh, this is hard.
It's okay.
Because I don't know who I am right now after caregiving.
Yeah.
I love you. Because I've been there. Yeah. Somebody asked me what I like to do, and I said, work.
That's what I like to do. And that's been my life raft, honestly.
Yeah.
And I had to give up my career to caregive. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You can find it.
So I'm looking.
You can find it.
We're going to come back. We're going to talk to Michele again. And because something she said in 2016 is kind of when it started, and she had no words to really describe it then. And that is really the caregiving journey started again. And again and again. It never ends. But that I think is really when when Michele talks about her career and about when it started impacting her, and how we've gotten here and how we're getting out. Michele's going to come back, and we don't want to call out that episode.
It is life after caregiving.
Michele, it is when that active portion ends and how you're getting out, because that's the secret that we all want to know, Michele. And while you say you got to that point where there were no words, that with the sisters, we're going to find the words.
We're finding it.
So you're coming back.
Vital. What you guys, and it's like when you walk in the woods and you can't name anything, like any of the plants, the trees, the mushrooms or anything, and it feels wildly unfamiliar. But when you can name the tree, or you can name the flower, or you feel safe for some reason.
That's right.
And words give us the ability to build some safety and some ways to allow this emotion that's choking me. I think you guys can tell I'm choking right now on emotion, but it gives us the freedom to express that. That is, again, like, how do we build this resilience for caregivers? It's what you guys are doing. It's giving them words, giving them examples that you're not alone in this. Your journey is unique and individual. Your life is unique and individual. I don't even know if caregiving is a journey.
No, it's not. I don't think it ends.
No, because you're forever, if you survive intact, for the most part, intact, you get, the joy of rediscovering what do I want now? That's why I was like, it was kind of shocking to me, because I was like, I'm on that quest. I know, and I've tried to summon young Michele, the barrel rider, young Michele, the bouncer. I keep going back to her, trying to find her in the well, but there's this whole other side of me that is fixing to come out. And how they talk about like revenge vacations, like all these Americans are like, the pandemic revenge vacation, revenge travel, I guess is what they call it.
Right.
I was like thinking this morning, I was like, I need to come up with some caregiver, like I need to like have this like chrysalis break out and like go and find something to challenge me. Because it used to be mountain climbing. It used to be cycling. It used to be blah, 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 blah. What is it now? I don't know.
And you know what, though? I'm going to say this. That's okay.
Thank you.
Don't be so hard on yourself. You'll find your way, because the one thing I've learned from caregiving is that I can't go back to what I was. And so now I have to find who I am, and that's okay. And you can take your time.
And what's interesting is we've always been doing that. And I don't know why this feels so different. Like when you grow up, you're always setting like these little things that inspire you or pick you up. It's fascinating, right? Like, and that's something that I've been noodling with.
Yep.
I need a shaman. I need a shaman.
It's totally fine. Guys, thank you so much for listening in. This is like, Michele, you are just a warm hug to us. And so thank you for giving so much of yourself. And I cannot wait to get back together and have because this is going to be 2 episodes. We're going to keep these bad boys together because you're going to be like, I can't stop. It's like,
I need more of Michele.
Like, where's the next? Can I watch tomorrow's episode, please? Can I watch tomorrow's? So
Your warrior princess promises to come back.
That's
she
right.
Will be here.
So absolutely.
Thanks, Michele.
Thanks, Michele. Thanks everybody for listening in.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, friends, that's a wrap on this week's confession. Again, thank you so much for listening. But before you go, please take a moment to leave us a review and tell your friends about the Confessions podcast. Don't forget to visit our website to sign up for our newsletter. You'll also find the video recording of all of our episodes on the Confessions website and our YouTube channel. Don't worry, all the details are included in the show notes below. We'll see you next Tuesday when we come together to confess again. Till then, take care of you. Okay, let's talk disclaimers. You may be surprised to find out, but we are not medical professionals and are not providing any medical advice. If you have any medical questions, we recommend that you talk with a medical professional of your choice. As always, my sisters and I at Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver have taken care in selecting the speakers, but the opinions of our speakers are theirs alone. The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of the Sisterhood of Care, LLC.